Welcome to the Lowcountry Revolutionaries, the podcast that dives deep into the heart of Charleston, South Carolina's vibrant entrepreneurial scene. I'm your host, Bill Bellott, founder of Veritas Exoscience, and each week we're spotlighting the boldest innovators from the Chucktown startup community. These are the visionaries pouring their heart and soul into the businesses that are transferring Charleston into a global hub of creativity and American ingenuity. Get ready for raw, real conversations with the trailblazers shaping our city's future. Let's dive in. I would like to welcome Lynne Fuller. Lynne created College Flight Path to help students identify all aspects of their post-secondary journey. She helps students identify their four-year academic plan, test prep, college strategy, essay support, decision assessment, post-secondary success skills, and career aspirations. Welcome, Lynne. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thank you for inviting me to this.
It's my pleasure. I'm looking forward to this. It sounds like all the things that I could have used when I was starting my college career. So how'd you kind of get into this? And it sounds like way more like the superpower version of like a career counselor at a high school. How did you kind of get into this area?
So I was a D1 recruited athlete, and starting in seventh grade, I saw 42 colleges in total before I picked one.
Wow.
So I had a lot of experience touring campuses and going to camps at various campuses and engaging with coaches and admissions. And I just really sort of fell in love with it. And then that evolved into a stint in consulting for a company who unfortunately helped another company cook the books. And then I got laid off.
That does happen these days.
I had nothing to do with it. I was on the business development consulting side. And then I went back to grad school and became a classroom teacher and a head coach of a swim team. And I did that for the better part of 10 years. And I really started working with students tutoring. I really loved helping students hack their scores on SAT and ACT. So I did that for over 2.5 decades. And I felt very successful in that space, but it always led to conversations about next steps. It always led to what are my course selection and like where are some things that I'm interested in. And then it became just kind of this natural outcropping of sitting at the table with them and explaining a function. And then it became building lists of colleges. And then I sought additional degrees in college counseling certification, a master's in school counseling and mental health, spending over 700 hours in our local public schools, working with students on their academic plans. And I wanted to make sure that I had the best attending skills I could have for students who may have co-occurring anxiety or depression or other things that, the speed bumps of life. And so this is my 24th admission cycle that I am entering with students now. So I visit around 40 colleges a year. I have seen 1,000 colleges in total, the US, Canada, and the UK. We make it a part of every single vacation we go on is to see school.
Yeah.
And so what started as conversations with students became sort of this natural progression. I actually left the classroom full time in 2010 to start my business. So I was in the classroom for around 9 years, and then here I am in 2025 and 15 years full time doing this. Yeah.
That is amazing. I mean, that breadth of experience and having visited 1,000 colleges and just kind of knowing at least what the options are, because that's what, I think students struggle with is probably two things: knowing what the options are and having too many options. So how do you kind of walk them through this? It's like, I just experienced this the other night. So we had, they have a dual degree program with the high school that my son's at, and they're like, oh, you can do this. It's in association with Trident Tech and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. But if you go this thing, there are some pluses and minuses with it. It locks you into certain things. And so you're like, you come out of these things and you're like, okay, now what do we do with all this information, right?
So I would say identifying what your goals are, right? And when I start conversations, and I don't talk about college, we don't talk about the C word in 8th grade, but we talk about what do you want to get out of high school? And how do you optimize your experience and exposure? And what are the activities? And I always say to my students that they need to invest in 3 areas of their personality. And this, I do think, gets to the question of narrowing, which is I need you to invest in your altruistic heart. I need you to think with your career brain, and I need you to invest in your community and your school spirit. And those are the 3 things, because if you invest wholly into your community, you can then see what are all of the bridges of opportunity, whether that's through internships or paid work, that is through career-based clubs and activities, that is through teamwork on sports teams or in student government, right? These are all the ways that you can start to see where your interests outside of your structured class, activities or, classroom experience, your 5 core classes and anything else you elect to take really starts to develop. And then I think the biggest thing is career exposure, right? So listening to, honestly, to this podcast or other podcasts where they're talking about what people do in that space, I think becomes a really interesting soundbite to students of, hey, this is what this means. When I look at pathways, I take into account investment. What are you going to pay to do this? What is your typical return on investment using ONET data, so government-based data?
Right.
And I would never coach a student to take on more debt than their first year salary.
Right.
So those are the 3 things that I try to have as part of the equation. And then it comes to in-state, out-of-state, distance from home, willingness to sort of, to try and push your boundaries. So that's how we start to develop a list. I'll give an example. 2 years ago, our renewable merit scholarships are around $37,200 a year. This past year, it was $54,400 renewable dollars yearly.
Wow.
And that is, over $200,000 across a 4-year experience. And so for my students, I want to make sure it's affordable. It sets you on a trajectory in which you can gain skills that are really wonderful for you for your lifespan, especially with the advent of AI and how you can adapt and grow in the role that you decide. So these are all sort of parts of the equation when we are trying to really get to know a student over a period of time, helping them develop their sense of self. And then, of course, when we start to build a list, quantifying that so they have a really good return on their investment.
That's cool. Do you mainly, who's kind of like your ideal kind of, I know you can work with any student, but who's kind of like your ideal student to kind of work with? Is it early on, like the 8th, 9th grade, or is it closer to senior year kind of thing? What is like your sweet spot where you guys can provide the most help,
Yeah, so thank you for asking that question, because I think there's a misnomer, right? I don't want to push anything. Trident Tech is amazing, right? Associates programs are amazing. Any sort of training program to upskill yourself is amazing.
Right.
You have more options the earlier you start.
Right.
So if I'm helping a student choose course selection in 8th grade for high school, and they have not yet taken any high school level courses that are going to carry over to their high school transcripts, sometimes that happens with Algebra 1 and geometry in particular, or Spanish 1 or Spanish 2 or any other world language. But if I'm helping them really understand, okay, when are you going to have more opportunity for elective courses? And can I present you with low risk free options for additional summer courses or courses around your free time for your own exploration? The earlier I can present that, the more that they come to understand about themselves when it comes to the career prospect, process. So I would say my ideal client is anyone who has not completed high school coursework yet. So sometimes that's 7th grade, sometimes that's 8th grade, and creating a 4-year plan that is adjustable. And the times of when I would really jump in with those students, if they're an 8th grader and they haven't taken high school coursework yet, that's going to be January, February, or maybe even early March when they do their course selection. And then in freshman year, that same cohort. Sophomore year, it's really nice to meet after the PSAT to know what their snapshot is. And then to give them an initial list of ideas to consider so they can use 2 spring breaks and any other available free time to them. So it's not all just squished into their junior year. Junior year, meeting a student for the first time, I have to get them to campuses. They have to show demonstrated interest. They have to then identify what their career prospects are. And if they're more liberal arts oriented, then like I'm an engineer, or I want to do robotics, or I want to do
Right.
whatever, it's a little bit tougher. It gets more condensed. And that's when the stress starts to increase. I
Oh, yeah.
prefer the beach entry to the process.
Oh yeah, well, that's it's always better to start earlier. It's like I did another podcast before this, trying to get kids into STEM, and I talked to lots of people that have amazing careers, even astronauts, all that kind of stuff, and it all started early on. It all started when they were kids. A lot of them, especially in the STEM area, taking stuff apart and figuring things out. When they were kids, and like 10 years old and 8 years old, not like 18, and I totally hear what you're saying. It's like if you can get in earlier, and I know just, I went to a lot of colleges. One of the hardest things to do is, believe it or not, it's like figuring out electives. And those things, like you're saying, have a lot of value, but you don't really know how to navigate it and put it together because everything's optional. You can do whatever you want, kind of thing. So how do you work with kids on that?
Well, that's a great question because when I think about students choosing, they're like, I'm going to take cooking. And
Right.
I love cooking classes. This is not a knock against home economics in any way, shape, or form. But if I have a student who's interested in public health
Mm-hmm.
or nutrition
Right.
or exercise science, there is a place for the nutrition classes and health and understanding cooking
Right.
and sort of I would say the macros, like understanding your macros, right?
Yeah.
But if you're an engineering student, I would probably steer you towards, some sort of robotics or 3D printing or one of those electives. We want to make it intentional. And that's the biggest difference when you're planning out a 4-year course. I would say all electives have to serve a purpose and be intentional in your exploration. Nothing is a throwaway.
Right.
And it's ease of mind if it's fun. I have plenty of students who love sport marketing because it's marketing and sports, two of their favorite things. They get to pitch an ad idea, but it can be in an industry that they're interested in. So my biggest piece of advice is pick with intention if it's going to serve a purpose of exploring your future self.
Absolutely. Yeah. And my background, I'm an engineer and a scientist, and I can totally identify with everything you're saying here. It's like, if I was telling somebody, it's like, hey, if you're interested in science, especially like biology and chemistry and stuff like that, actually that culinary or home ec class you're taking, that will apply later on. You'll figure it out one day, but that will apply. If you're an engineer, shop class, if you can get into a shop class, that's really cool. That'll help you out later on, And it's stuff like that you don't even think about when you're in high school and stuff like that.
Well, I would also say too that there's so many wonderful robotics teams and
Right.
STEM-based science Olympiad and other activities. I always look at what's your level of course rigor because that needs to increase so you can show that you're leveling up and you can, kind of
Right.
handle that next set of skills. But then also companion to that, what else are you telling about your story through the activities that you're doing?
Right.
So, if your school does not offer 3D printing or an engineering course or Project Lead the Way, which is a huge engineering curriculum. If it doesn't offer that, then where are you getting that in your activities to tell part of that story,
Right.
right?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Back when I was doing this, there really wasn't as much of the storytelling, but now it is really kind of critical as part of like developing your story as you're going into whatever kind of post-secondary type activity you choose. And I love that you're kind of helping kids think about that because they're still trying to figure this out and just make good grades and get through high school.
It's a lot to balance, that's for sure. And I have students who are always electing ROTC
Mm-hmm.
or, do I go in enlist and get the GI Bill and then learn more about myself and grow because that frontal lobe develops until age 25.
Right.
So the impulsivity sort of reduces, likelihood of dropping out of a program also reduces over time when you're the one making the investment or you have those, finite dollars to spend. So I think kind of identifying what that looks like, I would say a few trends that I'm seeing in that area as well would be There's more students that elect to do a gap year,
Right.
whether it's study away, community service, going and working for a year. They're doing something to really, know that they're prepared. I have a bigger push of students maybe doing 2 years at a community college that has direct credit transfer to a four-year institution. And I have a lot of students who are doing companion coursework. I have a student at College of Charleston right now who's business administration, but is also enrolled in Trident Tech as well,
Cool.
looking to get an associate's degree. So there's a lot of ways that you can sort of create these, I would say, parallel paths to have multiple streams of income in the future.
Right, right. And do you mainly work with the students here in the Charleston area, or are you're wider than that? What's kind of your scope?
So my background is that I'm actually I live part-time in two places.
Oh,
So
wow.
I'm a part-time Charleston resident and I'm a part-time Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania resident.
Okay.
So initially I worked in schools in outside the Philadelphia area and I worked for a school running all of their test prep services for 12 years.
Okay.
And I adored being in person with them and it was wonderful. But my business kept growing and growing, growing organically. And so I was doing two things full time
Yeah.
and something had to break. And so my in-person to that school did, and Charleston tugged at my heart with many other people in 2020. And I'm sorry, I am one of those, but I drive well. I'm not a poor driving transplant. Um, but we then had one of my personal sidebar interests is breathing life back into old homes
Oh,
and bringing their
nice.
character back to life. So it was one of the things that we did, and we were so lucky to do that. And so we have a place in Wagner Terrace, and so I've gotten to know a lot of people through 1 Million Cups and through networking and engaging with the Harbor Entrepreneur Group and just getting to meet people like you. So my network grew really fast in
Wow.
Charleston of who I got to meet. And so I have students across the low country. But my students now are, because I'm fully remote company. So my colleagues are in Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and
Right.
Virginia.
Wow.
So we have people sort of across the Eastern Seaboard. If anybody's in Central Mountain or Western time zone, hit me up because
There
we
you
need people
go.
on the other coast too. And then my students are in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, Texas, Florida, Ohio, Michigan, Massachusetts, Connecticut,
Wow.
North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. So you name it, we go from tip to tail in 95 and east to west. I have a student who is uh, she attends Palisades Charter School, which is now in an old Sears because they lost all their structures in their buildings. So I have students coast to coast, north, south, and
Wow.
in Canada.
Wow, that's amazing. And so it sounds like you keep in touch with the students beyond, high school. So how does that kind of work? Is it just kind of a network that grows organically, or is that part of the consulting that you do?
Well, I part of the career counseling arm of what we do is really making sure that their launch and transition to college has gone well.
Mm,
And then also, do they have all of their essential career assets? Do they have a LinkedIn profile? Do they have an applicant tracking system or ATS compliant resume so
right.
they can get into some of the career fraternities or, related to their major fraternities that exist? And honor societies? Are they also prepared for their first internships?
Right.
So we make sure that when they leave us, that they are leaving with those materials in hand, at least a first scratch at it.
Yeah.
And so they often will boomerang back because it's one of the services that we provide to our students. I've kept in touch. If I haven't looked at my LinkedIn lately, but it's somewhere around 1,700
Wow.
former clients, and we've worked with 5,000 5,000 students on the whole. So we send out newsletters. We have a networking arm. All of our interns and sort of early workers for us are former clients who
Nice.
we get to work with. So I call them my boomerangs. They tend to come back. They ask for advice. We work with anywhere on the upwards of around 200 boomerang clients a year who
Wow.
come back at any early stage of their career and even sometimes later stage of their career.
That's amazing.
So I've been tracking them for a long time and keeping up with them on LinkedIn especially, but in email and our newsletters as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I tell you, as good as the counselors are in our local schools around here, once high school's over, they kind of move on from that and everything. And the uh, the thing is having somebody there as you're kind of launching into college and high school. I mean, college and past college into your internships is really kind of a huge deal. Because I had interns in my last job and stuff like that, and just having like how to present yourself for an internship, how to manage your social media, because that gets looked at a lot. And sometimes students don't understand that that's a part of who they are now.
Yeah, you have to be really careful about your footprint online. That's for sure, right? And I always coach them. I said, look, lock down your account. Make sure nobody can get into your account. You're not a public figure, and then you can have multiple accounts. So I have students who are artists and want to build a portfolio or even have a little side hustle of a Shopify or something like that, and they want to promote that. Okay, well then have a separate account for it. Like make something dedicated. So I have interior design
Nice.
fun account. I have a dog account. My dog's got like 7,900 followers. It's kind of funny. They follow his antics. So it's okay to sort of niche down in those places, because guess what? Then it trains your algorithm too, that like all you're seeing are dogs or all you're seeing are
Exactly.
pretty interiors, right? It's a fun way to sort of express that. And then my work account is truly all things college counseling. So the entire algorithm is based on what colleges are saying and what career counselors are saying, and the experts in the field. So it's been fun to sort of like know that about social media, that you can use that to your advantage when you want to niche down in certain areas. You can actually build your algorithm that way. So
That's smart.
yeah, so I maintain four Instagram accounts, and
Wow.
my interns maintain the TikTok. I'm not involved,
Yeah, I
but
didn't touch
I
that.
just check it to make sure everything's spelled right. But outside of that,
Yeah.
but it's one way that you can really sort of see what's out there, the breadth and depth of a potential career or potential interest. It's, another way that you can use social media to your advantage. There was another aspect of what you said earlier on too about our career counselors, and sort of their relationship ends at the end of high school because they are graduated, right?
Right.
So unless they come back or they're transferring or they're getting to a new job and they have to request a transcript, that's kind of their only touch point. Public schools don't really have an alumni council. Like
Exactly.
there's no like connected career center. And it's one of the things about our mentorship. I was just at a wedding of one of my former
Oh,
students
wow.
earlier this summer,
Yeah.
and it's lovely to be in people's lives for a long time. So I think that connection and that part of what we do is really special to us, because that long-term relationship is important because you're helping foster one's journey and all the bumps in the road, right?
Absolutely. And so is it better for like the students to reach out to you, or is it better for parents and students? How do people kind of interact and start this journey with you?
When I look at my analytics, it's 50% mobile, which are students,
Okay.
and 50% desktop, which are the parents.
Right.
And so, if I had to guess, right? I would say the ones who go for the initial phone call, they often will schedule it at a time when both the student and the parent are available, that they can have a chat with me. I do a free 15-minute chat.
Oh, nice.
I earmark 20 minutes, but it's 15-minute chat, and we talk all about them and sort of where they are and their inflection points and why they would need some support and coaching along the way. And so there's an easy contact form on our website in which people can go and schedule those calls with us and just have a chat and discuss. They could also email us at hello@collegeflightpath.com as well.
Nice.
So easy ways to be able to get in touch with us, or our Instagram, just DM us at College Flight Path on Instagram. So
Awesome.
those are kind of the easiest ways, but it's 50-50. It's students sort of pushing their parents, hey, I think I'm going to need help with this. This is a little more complicated than I thought. Or sometimes the parents have been through it with an older child, and then they realize, oh, wow, we need help. Like we did it, but we kind of bootstrapped it.
Right.
We need a slightly more holistic guidance this time around. So, that could be another one. Or a lot of my business up until the last 2.5 years, when I pivoted and scaled my model of my business and grew in the Charleston area, was word of mouth.
Right. Right.
right? Somebody trusted you, and you were a steward of their child, and it was successful. And then all of a sudden, people tell people, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's always, when you're raising a child, it's always nice to have some extra helping hands. So I think
mhm.
that's a great idea. And I really, really, I think this is a great business model. And I hope, it grows even more here in Charleston. We have a lot of great students around here. And I think, I'm going through it as a parent myself. So I'm like, hey, this is a great idea. I could use a little bit of help here.
Well, and we do some free nights as well. We had a FAFSA night on filling out FAFSA back in September. I'm doing a scholarship night in November. I'll share that link. Anybody can join us for that. We talk about automatic scholarships you're considered for within an institution. Institutional scholarships you have to apply for that has a process, and we talk about external scholarships as well. So how to be able to fund your process so you are not in debt at the end of it is really important.
I'm a big fan of that. I went to 3 different universities. I worked at every university, so I came out without a debt. And so I'm a big fan of that. I know that's not always possible, but I love this idea of how do you come out without debt? At least that as a goal to try to get to there.
Yes, I agree. And you know what? That's actually one of the biggest hacks, and not everybody knows about it. If you work for an institution,
Yeah.
you can take up to a certain number of credit hours for free.
Yeah.
And my colleague, who's my career counselor, she did that twice over. Both her undergrad at Cornell, it was tuition free. It did not cost her $1 because she worked at the institution. And at the University of Pennsylvania, she received her master's degree and she worked for the institution.
Yes.
And so debt free on both degrees. And it's a great way to be able to.
It's a huge bump up coming out of those places where you're not. It opens up a lot of options for your decisions as far as work, because if you come out with a huge amount of debt, it may channel you a certain way because of that. At least my opinion on that.
I agree. And so use your 20s to get your training, and it's okay to take it slow, right? There's a payoff to that too.
Absolutely.
Cost benefit. Yeah.
So it sounds like you're doing great. So I have to ask, so what advice would you have for other entrepreneurs out there in the Charleston area?
Oh, don't get over your skis. Don't get over your skis. I've self-funded every aspect of my business. I'm 15 years in business. I pivoted and scaled my model. I added additional team members to our team. We have 5 fractional, and we have 5 sort of more on our CFP payroll. Right. And I had to have money in the bank to do so. I did not want to have to take out a loan or have outside investors. I wanted 100% ownership of the ideas that I've been building for so long. And so for me, I took it slower and really built my team. And there have been bumps along the way. I had a team member that we had different work ethics.
Right.
And that was to recover, something to recover from. So it's not to say that there are bad choices over time as well. You learn so much from every decision you make, but don't make it too fast or too hastily without some plans and strategic planning in place. I've recently hired somebody who's a strategic planning and ed tech brilliant person who
Nice.
We're hoping that, we can really use some of our market analysis to grow our team next year. So,
Right.
so I say slow, steady as it goes. Don't get over your skis. Don't get into too much debt. Don't go too fast. And if your gut's telling you no, it's no.
Yeah.
You got to trust your gut.
Yeah. I totally feel you. I'm impatient, but I totally feel what you're saying. It's like, I want this to go a lot. I want my business to go faster than it is, and it's just like, okay, like you said, don't get over your skis, because the minute you get over your skis, that's when you roll, right?
That's when you roll. You don't want to roll. If you're water skiing, you don't want to face plant. If you're on the snow, you don't want to roll. Right?
Exactly.
So,
both are bad.
Both are bad, and both are really uncomfortable. Yeah, and 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 you have to choose wisely who you surround yourself with and their energy. And life will have a way of throwing things in your path that are going to slow you down. And I'm in a period where we are dealing with the, parental loss and that kind of thing. And
Oh yeah.
and
I know about
and
that.
so it will slow down the work that you really want to intend on your business. And you just kind of have to take it steady as it is, and be really, make sure you have enough time for the life that you want to live as well.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. It's like business is great, but you don't forget to live your life, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Lynn. This has been wonderful. I hope we have another conversation again in the future, and thank you for sharing so much with everybody about College Flight Path, and I'm looking forward to hearing more in the future about all the people that take advantage of your business.
Oh, thank you so much. It was a pleasure chatting with you this afternoon.
You too. Take care.
All right, take care.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Lowcountry Revolutionaries. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the fearless entrepreneurs making wave in Charleston's Chucktown Startups community. I'm Bill Bellot, and it's been an honor to share these inspiring stories with you. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who needs a spark of low country innovation. Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.